I'd like to describe a little bit the union of the Kanim that were in 770. In Tovshin Yutes, the Rebbe came out with the ganze Sturm of Ufaratzto. But it was not only Ufaratzto in Afot Samyonis and spreading Yiddishkeit, etc., being Mekarev Yidden, but also Ufaratzto in learning, that people should learn more. Ufaratzto, the Rebbe teaches B'li Gvul, to learn much more than you learned before. And that's when the Rebbe established the concept of the Knei HaMeneira. We know the Meneira had 7 branches. So the Rebbe said that 7 bochrim should be chosen from the Yeshiva 770, that they should give themselves over specifically more to learning Nigleh, and other 7 should be given over to learning Chassidus. And they were called the Kanim because the branches of the Meneira represents Torah, and these are the branches of the Meneira. So there are 7 branches, 7 Kanim of Nigleh and 7 Kanim of Chassidus. And their job was to learn extra, but besides that, the Rebbe wanted that they should say Pilpulim. The 7 Bochrim that were chosen to be Kanim of Nigleh would say a Pilpul once every 7 weeks in Nigleh. And the Bochrim who were the Kanim in Chassidus would say a Pilpul in Chassidus, which was also a big Chiddush, that Bochrim should say Pilpulim in Chassidus. That's something that we're not used to. In Lubavitch, it wasn't such a thing. It started a little bit in Hatomim, that there are people who wrote Pilpulim in Chassidus like this. People had said as Beidim, but the concept of a Pilpul in Chassidus, especially by Brochim, was something new, but the Rebbe wanted that it should happen. And these Pilpulim were printed in Kuntreis, in Keftzim, called Pilpul Atalmidim. The Pilpulim were said, the Pilpulim in Nigleh were said Motzei Shabbos, Pilpulim Chassidus was said Friday night. This was winter time when there was Seder Motzei Shabbos. Summertime when there was no Seder Motzei Shabbos, so the Pilpulim in Nigleh were said Friday, because Friday afternoon there was a longer Seder. And then these were written down by the Bochrim, but went over by the editorial board, the Mareches of the Nigleh and Chassidus. The Mareches of Nigleh mainly was Harav Mentlik, one of the Rosh Hashivas in 770, and the Mareches of Chassidus was Rabbi Leibel and Rabbi David. And they would look over the Pilpulim that they wrote, and then it was printed. And it's interesting, on the Kevitz of Pilpul al Talmidim, it said, this heading, Kevitz Pilpul al Talmidim b'Nigleh b'Chassidus. And then it said, Nemru b'Beis HaMedrash shel Kveit Kedushas Admor Shlita Lubavitch. That it was said in the Beis HaMedrash of the Rebbe, and then it said Lubavitch. So it's interesting to note, I didn't say that this was said in the Yeshivas Temchat Mimim, because these were Talmidim of Temchat Mimim, but it said basically that it said in the Beis HaMedrash of the Rebbe. In other words, this made a connection to the Rebbe even more. I don't know who said to write that, if it's the Rebbe or it came otherwise, but the point here is that it's not als Talmidim of Yeshiva. This is a thing that came from the Rebbe, and it's something that has to do with the discussions of the Rebbe. And on top of the Kuntres, on the front page, on the Sharbalat, it quoted the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos, where it says, actually the Braise Perik Vov, it says, HaTorah niknes b'Aboyim u'Shmeina Dvorim. The Torah you could acquire through 48 ways, and one of the ways is Pilpul HaTalmidim. And that's the reason for the cave. It's called Pilpul HaTalmidim. And this brought a lot of Chayestake in learning, and this went on for many years like that. And as I assume, and I'm pretty sure that it's still going on, that there is such a thing as 7 Kanim in Nigleh, 7 Kanim in Chassidus, and they say Pilpulim. I don't know exactly how it works now, the Gamma printing and how it works, and who's looks over, etc., etc. But that was what was going on throughout all the years on the Chovs and then the Lameds, and hopefully it's still going on.